Travolting presents The Fraser's Edge. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering Sinbad, Beyond the Veil of Mists. With special guest, Brian DeLisi.
Why have you gone?
My name is Bordon. My people have been slaughtered by the cyclos. I will fill knowledge into your head.
Why have you come?
Is both that fish guy in this movie and also me watching this movie. Why have you come?
Why have we agreed to this?
Oh, boy. That's right, folks. This week we're covering everyone's favorite DreamWorks animation film, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas.
Not DreamWorks.
That's what we
Wait,
thought.
we're not covering Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas?
Oh, wait.
Oh, shit. I watched the wrong...
Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute, Jeff.
Yes. Yeah?
Beyond the Seven Seas. Sorry, I did not know where you were going with that bit, so I might have shut you down.
No, that's the DreamWorks Sinbad movie with Brad Pitt.
With Brad Pitt.
It's called
yeah.
Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, the movie that we all thought we were watching.
Mm-hmm.
Because, folks, we're covering Sinbad, Beyond the Veil of Mist this week, and we all, when we just casually saw this in our roster, thought, well, it must be that cool Sinbad movie, because they clearly didn't make two animated Sinbad movies in the early 2000s.
No, of course not.
So it's going to be that fun one with Brad Pitt that people like.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser's probably like a side character or
Yeah,
something.
and so I sent everyone, the list, and Brian's like, oh, I love that Sinbad movie as a kid. Gotta watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're not talking about that movie today.
No, we're not.
Brian, at what point did you realize it was not the movie?
It's almost immediate. It's almost immediate. There's a really pretty intro sequence of the map, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. It's the whole the map thing. And then it goes into a GameCube game loading sequence.
It looks like an unloaded GameCube game.
It's so rough. It's so rough.
This is not Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. This is Sinbad, Veil Beyond
Beyond the Veil of Mist.
Beyond the Veil of Mist.
Which is, of course, based on the Sinbad legends.
Yeah.
Sinbad the Sailor from 1001 Nights.
Yeah, I also didn't realize this wasn't that animated Brad Pitt Sinbad fairly quickly on.
Mostly because Brad Pitt wasn't in it.
Mostly because
Wait
Brad
a
Pitt
second.
wasn't in it. And I thought, wait a minute, I don't remember Brendan Fraser voicing Sinbad in that movie. I thought that was somebody else. And I thought, wait a minute, why does the title of this IMDb look very different? Oh wait, what's this trailer? Oh no!
Oh no!
And that's when I realized the movie we're watching is not that movie.
Folks, before we dive in, I do want to say we're playing a new game here in Travolting today. So I have a bottle of wine that doesn't fit in my fridge. It's already been opened. It has to be finished today, or else it will go bad because it has been opened and exposed to the elements. Brian and I have a glass. Stuart declined at first, but we do have an empty glass and a bottle with one glass full sitting on the table in front of him. We're going to see how far into discussing this movie we can make it. He is opening the bottle. He is opening the bottle. All right.
The glass has been poured.
The answer to that question is immediately. He is immediately pouring the glass.
I can't let you die on that bit.
I was waiting to see, and I was like, all right. And then we see the fish people, and I see Stuart reach for the bottle.
Just
be right
talking
away.
about how this is not the Sinbad we thought it was has
Yeah.
pushed him over the edge.
Oh, it's not bad wine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a Skyfall Washington State red wine blend for anyone who is remotely curious.
Oh, it's nice.
The bottle art looked cool, so I got it for a party, and no one drank it. And it's an unusually tall bottle, so it just I put it in the fridge. It just doesn't compute.
Takes up too much space.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah.
I've already finished my glass.
Oh my god! Oh my god! He actually has, folks. I didn't even see him drink it.
Yeah, I finished it.
Okay, so we're in
This
a good
movie has tormented my
folks,
life.
we're in a good place right now. I'm gonna say I found this movie frightening.
Oh my god!
I was
yes.
unsettled by this movie.
I still have nightmares.
I mean, like, in a genuine way, this tapped into something from my childhood, and I was unsettled by this movie.
If you've seen the 1993 TV movie Stephen King It, this is worse. This is worse than that.
This has tremendous Return the Slab energy.
Yeah, from Courage and the Cowardly
Yeah.
Dog.
Yes.
Like like that. The reason that is so frightening to so many of us as like a formative memory as we're kids is like it's a CGI creation in this 2D animated world, and it like the dissonance just really fucks with us. And this movie is just that for an hour and a half. Stuart brought it. Yeah. Oh, suffer my kids. Even the Leonard Nimoy character kind of looks like this mummy.
He does.
But, like, there is something strange about this animation that really tapped into, like, a childhood fear.
Oh, it's so uncanny.
I don't know what it is, but it, like, I don't want to say I was, like, sitting there, like, for the whole movie, but I was just, like, kind of unnerved and unsettled.
It is not easy to watch.
Yes.
They don't blink enough. They don't. There's so much uncanniness going on.
Like, this had, like, creepypasta vibe. Like, I was afraid, like, the characters were going to look into the screen and be like, come with us, Jeffrey, and I'd be sucked into the 2D, like, the animated world forever.
And you turn into a 3D like monster version of it.
It's some weird combination. We'll talk about it more when the plot, but I did find this frightening.
Yeah. No, this was like a very tough to watch for both more than one reason.
So let's dive into some context.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk first about Fraser's career. This comes out immediately after Dudley Do-Right and The Mummy, before Bedazzled and Monkey Bone. I have to say, because this is important, this movie is filmed, quote unquote, 3 years prior to coming out. Like, the actors do the work before that. Which means this movie is made in 1997.
Which makes sense in Fraser's career.
Which is before George of the Jungle.
Yeah.
So this movie is essentially made before Fraser pops off.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more
Like,
sense.
his work in it is done before he's, like, a big star.
Yeah.
Because I was a little confused, like, okay, like, I know he's not Brad Pitt level, but, like, why is he in this one?
Right.
Like, no disrespect to those guys, but Leonard Nimoy, Mark Hamill, John Rhys Davies, they make sense being in this.
Yeah, they kind of...
They're guys who, like, will do movies, but they do, like, they'll do cheap animation just for, like, voiceover stuff as the paycheck. And they're good, but they'll do that. Like, Mark Hamill's in a lot of Nickelodeon shows and whatnot. And I was like, okay, but Fraser's a little confusing here. And then I was like, okay, so he does his work for this before George of the Jungle comes out. So when it comes to his career, this movie definitely is not going to have any impact on his career. Because we'll talk about, like, 2 people saw this movie.
Us 3.
Yes, us 3. But it is just worth acknowledging, like, where this fits into the career, which is, for him, it's before all this big stuff.
You know.
For the audience at home, it's like, oh, yeah, a movie with Brendan Fraser off The Mummy? That's great. It's another adventure movie. I'll go see that.
Probably the only reason why they released it.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
Because it's like, we're not going to release this piece of garbage. And then The Mummy comes out and like, oh, wait a second.
Wait, Brendan Fraser's a name
wait
now.
a
It has
second.
the, do you guys remember Red Dawn?
Yeah.
There's, like, the 80s Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Do you remember the 2011 Red Dawn?
Yeah.
Or whenever year.
Josh Peck?
2013. So I think I promise this has a point that I'm bringing up Red Dawn. The 2012 Red Dawn is a movie that's filmed in, I think, 2008. Okay,
Wow.
it's filmed in 2009.
Wow.
And here is the cast of this movie: Chris Hemsworth, Josh Hutcherson, Josh Peck, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And the movie is deemed unreleasable. In part because it has China as the villains, and the U.S. was trying to, like, become friendly with China more so at the time.
Yeah.
It was, like, the height of, like, Obama's, like, Pacific attempts. And so the movie just kind of gets put on the back burner. They're like, we know forever we'll release this.
Is that the only reason it's unreleasable? Because if it's China?
Well, it's also just bad.
Oh, okay.
They're like, it's bad.
Yeah.
The thing that's funny is when this movie is made, Josh Peck is the biggest star who they get. Josh Peck is like, we're making a Red Dawn movie with Josh Peck
From Drake and Josh.
from Drake and Josh guys.
Yeah.
He's like the big get. And then Chris Hemsworth has Star Trek come out like right after they start filming. But he's only in the opening scene of that. The movie is put on the back burner. They throw it in the catalog. They're like, maybe we'll do something with it down the line. A few years go by. 2012 happens. Thor comes out. The Avengers becomes the biggest movie of all time with Chris Hemsworth.
Hunger Games is out.
The Hunger Games comes out with Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah.
The studio decides we need to get Red Dawn out ASAP.
Yeah.
We have this movie with Chris Hemsworth, Josh, and we need to get this out. Josh Peck kind of drops to third billing at this point, as opposed to being first. They hastily re-edit the movie and CGI over every Chinese flag with the North Korean flag.
Oh no!
Wow.
And hastily, any reference to China is ADR'd with North Korea.
Wow.
And it's funny how
and
the
they-
marketing of this really is like Chris Hemsworth front and center.
Because he had just been in the Avengers.
Yeah.
And so this movie is like quickly rushed out so they can get in on the jump of that.
Yeah.
I think that's important context to kind of litigate as we talk about why Sinbad was released in the year 2000.
That makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because I was for a lot of this movie being like, why would they put this out? Mm-hmm. Why would Fraser do
They
this?
sunk too much money into it, and Fraser had and they're like, oh my god, we have a guy who just like became the biggest movie star as the lead of this movie. We have to get it out there.
Imagine a scene of this where it has all of these presumably once Chinese flags that they just put like the red star.
Yeah.
Like that's work.
This is also the weird time in history where everyone's like, what if we just made North Korea
The bad
villain
guys? The
bad
things?
guy. Mhm.
And not that like they're a good country by any means necessarily. But does anyone remember Homefront?
Homefront? No.
They put out this game called Homefront in like 2012 around when Red Dawn comes out. And like they were hyping up as like the next Call of Duty.
Yeah, I do remember.
I remember because I got the Game Informer physical magazine at the time, and like the cover was Homefront. It's the new franchise. The game came out like no one liked it. But I remember that specific period in history, like Homefront, Red Dawn, yeah, North Korea, fuck 'em. And then in 2000 they were like, the fish people, fuck 'em.
Oh no.
But Fraser, I think you can tell how much they're riding this movie on making money based on Fraser by the fact that his name is in the opening credits twice.
Twice in a row.
Because the movie starts, I'll go back to a little more context about how this movie got made. But this movie starts and it's like, this company presents Brendan Fraser in massive text. Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mist. And then it goes to the small text. Starring Brendan Fraser. And I'm like, wait a second.
We know why you came.
I'm like,
we know why you're
fellas, anyone who's seen this movie has already given you money. They already know that Fraser's in this movie.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this.
Right.
You put his name twice on the poster if you need to really get at this. Okay, so to talk about the creation of this movie, like I said, this movie was quote unquote filmed in 1997. It's an Indian company known as Pentafor Software. It kind of gets in on the CGI rush immediately after Toy Story comes out.
Yeah.
Because Toy Story comes out in 95. It's the first fully CG animated movie. And immediately everyone's like, we need to get in on this.
And to be fair, like Toy Story,
Yeah.
revolutionary.
Yeah.
But if you watch it though,
Here's the thing.
yeah,
Toy Story holds up until you see Andy.
until you see people.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The toys look great in that movie still.
Because they're toys.
They're plastic.
Yeah,
That's
they're
why they
plastic
picked toys
Yeah.
for that movie.
It's easy.
Sid looks good because he's supposed to be scary. So the fact that he's unsettling looks good.
Yeah.
Andy looks rough.
Yeah.
Andy is frightening. I will confess, Andy is very frightening.
And the dog's super
And the
uncanny.
dog.
He's like polygonal.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot in the first Toy
Yeah.
Story that we forget is kind of jank.
Yeah. Right.
But Toy Story comes out, makes a lot of money, and it starts this essentially an arms race for who can have a competing CG animation studio. Disney has a deal with Pixar. They don't own them at the time. So they're even in this deal with their own company.
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay, we have Pixar for 4 more movies. We're going to start funding our own CG animation studio. So Disney starts trying to make theirs. DreamWorks, right around the time Toy Story comes out, DreamWorks splits off with Jeffrey Katzenberg, and he forms DreamWorks SKG. It's always forgotten that SKG is at the end of DreamWorks. Spielberg, Katzenberg, and I forget who the fuck the G is.
Gold. It's like
some
it's gold something.
It's like some financier. Because the three of them form the company, and Spielberg's like, all right, I'm now the head of a studio. I'm going to make all my live action movies through them.
And then the first film we get, ants.
Well, that's for the animation.
Yeah.
Spielberg does Amistad. That's his big launch for DreamWorks, is he makes Amistad.
Is that DreamWorks?
Every Spielberg movie from like 97 through
Every Spielberg.
Crystal Skull is DreamWorks, I think.
Oh, so we're counting live action because there's DreamWorks Animation and there's DreamWorks SKG.
Yeah. At this point, they're the same company.
Okay.
The K covers the animation.
Right. Yes. Correct.
Gotcha.
It doesn't necessarily pertain to this movie, but it's fun context nonetheless. DreamWorks just launches at the time. Spielberg, who's one of the founders of the company, is like, I'm going to make all my movies through DreamWorks. Katzenberg's like, I'm going to get the best animators from who are disillusioned with working at Disney and steal them over, and we'll get them working on our CG animation studio. And then he's like, we'll also have a 2D, which is how the other Sinbad gets made.
Mm-hmm.
And all these companies it's a big arms race who can do the first like successful CG animation studio. Pentafor Software comes in.
And does it.
It does not succeed.
Becomes the best animation studio around.
We make Sinbad, Beyond the Veil of Mist, and it's an Oscar-winning.
They're essentially they're a
GameCube software company.
Well, no, they're an
PlayStation.
They're an Indian company, and something that we have to talk about in the creation of this movie is that Indian labor laws are not as strong as U.S. labor laws are, and U.S. labor laws aren't necessarily the strongest things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lot of companies do outsource animation to India, because you can get it for dirt cheap, and in poor conditions for the animators. But this company's like, we can make an animated movie for cheaper than anyone else, and we can revolutionize a brand new technology, motion capture. Because folks, this is the first feature-length film made entirely using motion capture. Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mists walked, so Avatar The Way of Water could run. We have to say it. We have to say it. We simply have to say it. Oh my God. He's taking a drink of my wine. You do not finish my glass. Give me that shit. This is gonna be a good episode, I can tell. But Pentafor Software, as they're known at the time, they have now rebranded to Pentamedia Graphics.
Oh, I loved that they were called software as a studio. That's
good.
amazing.
It's very good. So this is their launch movie.
Ooh.
This is their first one, and they're like, we're gonna get big talent for this. We're gonna get Fraser. We're gonna get John Rhys Davies. He's known for playing Sala in Indiana Jones. He'll be great as the king in our Middle Eastern fantasy. They got Leonard Nimoy and Mark Hamill to be in it.
What can go wrong?
They hire a live-action director, Alan Jacobs, who hasn't really directed anything any of us have heard of, but he is like a live-action director. Prior to this, he directed a movie called Nina Takes a Lover, a movie that we've all seen clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Have great affection for.
Great film.
The script for this movie is written by one of the software engineers.
Oh.
Jeff Wolverton.
Absolutely it is.
Yes. Because this company has a small, like, American base who kind of runs the top line of it, and then all the animators are in India through Pentafor. They're making this movie in addition to making a movie called Pandavas, The Five Warriors, which is an Indian, like, Hindu mythology animation movie made using the same technology as this one. I shan't be watching it, I'm sorry to say. I simply don't have time. Their Wikipedia clearly reads like someone who founded the company wrote it. Mm-hmm. Because they say 5 of their movies were shortlisted for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, but weren't able to get a nomination. I'm like, you don't say. You don't say. So they come about in this, and they get their big talent for this movie. The script's written by one of the software engineers. They get a live-action director to handle the live-action aspects of this movie. I imagine he probably fucks off halfway through making the movie. And then a CGI SFX guy goes on to actually do the directing of this movie. Evan Ricks, who is known for doing SFX for Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Nice. So he's got a good repertoire.
Yeah.
He does CGI, and then he made this movie. And that's really all the context that we have.
Man, can you imagine being that guy and like getting the motion capture data that's like 3 years old?
Yeah.
And like, hey, make this into a movie.
Yeah, let's do it.
Please.
This movie has
Brendan
a
Fraser's in it.
substantial budget.
Oh.
This movie is made for $30 million.
Jesus Christ.
Because, like I said, it's an arms race.
That's actual.
And studios are throwing money wherever they can to try and get in on, to try and find the next Pixar.
Hold on.
That is actually mind blowing. Because
Yes.
this movie looks like one of those
PlayStation 1 games.
Yeah, where you like make a little, people would do like the little videos like in Halo, like the machinima animations. That's what
It looks like Red versus Blue.
it looks exactly like. Red
Yeah.
versus
It
Blue.
actually looks worse than Red versus Blue. I would frankly say that.
Listen, I'm looking at games that came out in the early 90s, PlayStation 1 games. Resident Evil 2, 1998. How much did that video game cost to make?
Yeah.
How much did it make cost to make a PlayStation 1 video game? Because that's what this
Resident
movie,
Evil 2.
Yeah, no, that should be comparable.
right?
I'm trying to find the budget for Resident Evil 2. I found $1 million, but that's just for the remake.
Creation budget. Because you get the voice actors budget cost. Across 12
The game
months.
took more than $1 million to create.
Yeah.
More than 1 million is a very vague number because that could be anything from 1.1 to like 200 billion.
I assume
Yeah,
it's less than 30
It says
Yeah.
the Nintendo 64 version of Resident Evil 2 were released for the console, blah, 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 was ported by blah, 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 blah. This version offers features... Wait, I'm going across. The PlayStation version with 2 CD-ROMs of up to 700 megabytes per disc faithfully replicated the 64 megabyte Nintendo 64 Game Pack version. And in this process, they had to like compress the effects aggressively using certain techniques, but it ended up across the 12 months creation with a budget of $1 million.
Yeah, I could see this movie being made for $1 million.
Yeah,
Like,
that makes sense.
That is a respectable budget. For
$30 million.
That's
That's a Dr. Evil price right there.
actually insane.
Jeff, I'm going to finish your one.
No.
Jeff finished his wine.
I finished my
Brian,
wine.
you're the last one standing.
Stay away from my wine, Stuart.
Stay away from my wine, he says. So this movie made for $30 million, which is more than... I'm trying to find like an action movie that costs less than $30 million.
Let's look it up.
I'm trying to find movies that look great that cost less than $30 million.
Action movies.
This movie costs more than John Wick.
No fucking
Yeah, there
way.
you go. Yep.
That's
no
a good example.
fucking way.
It costs less than John Wick 2.
Counting-
It costs more than John Wick 1.
Counting for inflation and shit? Like,
If we don't count for... we're not counting for inflation on this show.
That's a lot of math for Jeff to do in the moment.
I'm simply not going to
but
account
like
for
30
inflation
million
right
means
now.
it's probably actually costed like 65 million.
Inflation isn't that crazy.
Let's see.
Inflation's crazy, but it's not
$30
like...
million from the 1997.
Yeah, do that.
30
That's about 55 million today.
$55 million. $55 million today.
That's insane.
And folks, we
That's
can't stress
baffling.
enough how horrible this movie looks. I've said this to both Brian and Jeff, but like if anyone's played like the early PlayStation 2 games of like Jak and Daxter Sly Cooper,
Stuart's
Ratchet and
really
Clank,
honing in on the Jack and Daxter of this all.
because I love Jack and Daxter.
Well, there's a
It's my
bunch of
favorite.
other games from that
my
time.
favorite-
And Stuart every time is like Jack and Daxter.
It's my favorite video game, Jeff. You can fuck off about it.
Favorite video game is Jack and Daxter.
It's an amazing game. It tells a great story.
When's the last time you played it?
I own it on PlayStation 2. I still have a PlayStation 2.
I have one right here too.
Yeah. But like if you know those like intro video game graphics where it introduces the world, you're not playing yet. This is just like the intro video sequence that introduces like the game. Imagine if that was an 80-minute long movie.
Yeah.
That's Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mist.
Yeah, I kept writing in my notes that it looked like a Prince of Persia cutscene.
Yes.
You know, where they're
That's
just
actually
like,
a perfect
right?
example.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. It's I'm so
Okay.
I'm so distraught.
Do we want to dive into the plot? I've done all the context I can.
I would love to.
The quote unquote plot.
Yeah.
So we start with the Princess Serena, who's voiced by Jennifer Hale, who is best known for she's a voice actress. She's best known for playing Commander Shepard in the Mass Effect games, if you choose the female Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
She's also been in the Knights of the Old Republic games as Bastila Shan, and she's done a lot of stuff.
Video games.
Yes, she has a lot of video games. She has a lot of animation.
Sensing a trend, yeah.
Yeah. And so she's just like running along the castle.
This
And-
castle that's on an isolated island
Yes.
of water.
Yes.
Immediately I'm like, this is unsettling because it's mocap movement, but with like really low res models.
It's so
So the
strange.
movement's weirdly lifelike.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like running along. She's like, this is great. I love this. And she runs down to the beach.
And there's voiceover
Yes.
of the king,
yeah.
voiced by
John Rhys Davies.
John Rhys Davies.
who
like-
has at this time just been in Lord of the Rings. Actually, no, he hasn't been in Lord of the Rings yet, but he's about to be in Lord of the Rings.
He and the voiceover is like, "Oh, the princess, what a free spirit." Although
He's like, isn't my daughter sexy? Wait a second, buddy. Wait a
she's
second.
so beautiful. It's very weird. It's a very classic, like fairy tale voiceover. Let me tell you the story of the princess and Sinbad.
Yeah, and he's like, let me tell you the story of the princess and Sinbad. And she's dancing along. She comes across this like fucking grotesque-ass mummy on the beach.
Yeah. Super dead looking.
Yeah. And
Really
the guy
nice.
like gets up and it's voiced by Leonard Nimoy. He's playing, what does he say his name is? Baraka?
Baraka.
He's like,
Baraka,
it's
my
me.
back. Hey!
He's like, it's me. I'm a good guy. And she's like, okay. He's like, I have potions. I'll share them.
Potion master.
And he's like,
come to buy your
if you
potions."
drink this, it's eternal life. And she's like, okay. She like is like, come with me. Let me introduce you to my father, the king of the realm.
Wait, you're skipping my favorite line of the entire
Yes.
movie. They're walking up. She's like guiding this, decrepit wizard to the castle, and she goes, "Do you like seafood?" And he goes, "I am seafood." It's so odd, and they just like stare at each other for a couple seconds afterward, and then they just keep
going. I am seafood.
I am seafood. And I go, okay.
All right, buddy.
Master.
I buy you.
It was great.
Oh my god.
And so they go in to the castle, and the king's like, "Oh, my daughter, how are you?" And she's like, "Meet my new friend, Baraka. He has potions."
Oh yes, I have potions. One gives you good vision, one gives you good memory, and one gives you long life. Which one would you like? Oh gee, I really have to think about this. How about the long life one, pal?
Yeah.
And so he gives him the potion. He
And
drinks
the king
it.
just fucking drinks it. He's just like, yeah, sure.
Where's the
I buy
taste
it.
tester in this realm? There's nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Well, the
Some-
entire castle is the king and 3 guards.
Yeah,
Seemingly empty.
there's nobody else there.
And like the king should have had like some shrimply like guard come over and drink it. He's like, no. He just gets the bodies get switched.
But the king drinks it.
Yeah.
And then Baraka, there's like a whole storm effect thing, and lightning shoots out, and they all get
You get
highlighted in
simply
smoke.
the greatest effect ever, where they clearly like had a guy with a mouse and he drags the super like the rotoscope form of the king, and they're like, whoop, and just swap them over each other.
I called it a zappy high five in my notes.
Yeah.
It's like,
It is a zappy high five. And they get Freaky Friday'd.
Yes.
So now Baraka is in the body of the king.
And the king is in the body of the disgusting ass body of Baraka.
And the king now has Leonard Nimoy's voice.
Yeah, I found Baraka unsettling. He frightened me. He was the core of all my unsettling fears during this movie.
because he looks just like the guy.
He looks like the Return of the Slab guy.
Yeah.
Like every time I look at him, I'm like, I don't want to be looking at this right now. This awakens something from my childhood. I spent the entire time thinking about video games that scared the entire movie thinking about video games that scared me as a kid. Remember that time me and my cousin were playing Star Wars: The Clone Wars, like the game where you were driving the tank the whole time, and then we pretended there was a ghost like in the other half of the map. And like that's where my brain was going during this movie. It brought back all those childhood fears.
Yeah.
It's a freaky looking movie.
It's freaky. And Baraka's like, in the king's body, is like, take that king to the dungeon and subdue my daughter. And she's like, no, they swap bodies.
Yeah, she thinks they swap bodies right away.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, she
She
figures
figures
it
it
out
out.
immediately.
Yeah. And so she runs out the window that rotates.
Yes, the rotating window.
Yes.
And she's sneaking around the palace
Yeah.
while the guards who are like, as they're running.
They do actually do that. It's
They do like a little like video game enemy grunt.
It's super Prince of Persia. She's
Yeah.
like
Right.
scooching around the little edge
Yeah.
of the castle.
Yeah.
Around this time, we get a visual that I was really put off by, because she skirts by this like potentially a metal pipe, and it has screws like into it, and I was like, did they just reuse a texture from something else?
Oh, I'm sure they did.
It's like literally like a cylinder metal pipe,
yeah.
and like all the things have like equidistant screws in the side of it. I was like, they just reused the texture from like from like fucking GTA 2 or something.
Wow.
Insane. And so she's running through like the town market.
Yeah. She
she-
does the Aladdin one jump ahead of the lawman scene
Yeah.
with no music.
and
no music.
she gets to a tavern.
Yes.
And inside the tavern is Calico Jack.
Calico Jack?
Calico Jack's the bartender,
Yes, he is voiced by Jim Cummings.
voiced by Jim Cummings.
He sounds like Winnie the Pooh, because he is the voice of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh yeah.
But the character sounds like Winnie the Pooh,
right.
because he's kind of just doing the same voice. He's like,
Ah, yes, I am the barkeep here. You're going to want a Sinbad.
Well, so the thing with Calico Jack is Calico Jack has zero facial animation. Like most of the
Zero.
characters in this movie, like their mouths will at least move when they're talking, and sometimes they blink.
Yeah.
Calico Jack, nothing. You can be at a close up of him and he's like delivering some lines. No animation at all. His mouth stays perfectly closed.
Yeah. And they try to cover with like is he wearing like a turban or something, or like
Yeah, he is.
he's got like a turban over his eyes, and he's got a big beard, so his mouth's kind of covered. Like that's what they try to do.
Oh, it's so strange.
It's very weird. And then she finds Sinbad, voiced by Brendan Fraser.
who comes out?
I'm looking at Brian's why.
well, because she comes into the bar and she's
Yeah.
like, I need Sinbad. I need
I need-
help. And everyone in the bar goes, I am Sinbad. No, I am
the whole
Sinbad.
fucking I am Spartacus thing.
It was, and it was very funny.
and like guys would come up and be like, "Oh, Sinbad."
Oh, there's no extras in this bar.
Yes.
Every model in the bar is also the crew of the ship later. I
Oh
just
my
thought that was really
God.
funny.
Apparently the only people who come to Calico Jack's bar are Sinbad and his crew.
Or Sinbad and the crew.
Yeah. And so Brendan Fraser eventually comes out, and he's Sinbad.
Yeah.
Sinbad.
He's Sinbad. I mean, what else can we say about
Sinbad.
Sinbad?
What else can we say about Sinbad? He comes out and he's like, "Hey, my fair lady, I don't do quest for hire. I'm a free spirit." And I'm like, "Brendan, buddy, I love you. I don't know what's going on here."
I don't know what he's doing.
Don't know
I
what's
don't know
happening.
what he's doing.
He's doing like the Blade Runner Harrison Ford narration where he wanted it to intentionally be bad, so they wouldn't use it, and then they used it. But Brendan just walks in. He's like, "I am Sinbad. I'm an adventurer. Do you want to come with me? You're beautiful."
Do you think they told him it was a video game?
Maybe.
I think it could
And
have
that's
been a
why
video
he's
game.
doing it like that.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, I am Sinbad. Do you want to come on my adventure with me? Great. Thank you. Like,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
it's so weird.
It's
so
unsettling,
bad.
is what it is.
And then, so the Sinbad and the princess, they take off on the boat.
Well, first he says no, and then she's like, "I'll pay you a lot of money,
Your weight in gold.
and we're going beyond the Veil of Mists."
That's a mythical story.
Yeah.
No one's ever done that. It's not real.
That's not real.
But anyway, he agrees to take her on and do her quest.
Yeah.
We come back in the barn. The guards come in looking for her.
Why does she have to go to the Veil of Mist?
Oh, because she saw a book, the wizard's book. She got a hold of the wizard's book, and it said how the potions were made.
And she ripped
And
a
the
page out.
Potions were made beyond the Veil of Mist.
Yes.
Okay.
And she's trying to fix the whole switcheroo.
Yes.
Because meanwhile, the fake king is going to kill the real king.
Yes.
It's a whole thing.
He's putting the plans in place to execute the real king.
Yeah.
The guards come in and arrest Calico Jack for some reason. He's like, "Where is she?" And he's like, "She wasn't here." And they're like, "You're lying!" And throw her in jail. Throw him in jail with the
real king.
With the real king, who's in the body of Baraka.
Yes.
Because Baraka, who's in the body of the real king, has this like mystical map that allows him to see where the princess is at all
Yes,
times.
he found a lock of her hair.
He has the NSA at his side, so he can spy
He
on
found
her.
the lock of her hair and he put it in the Palantir. Or whatever.
Nice.
What's the thing
Yes.
from Harry Potter? The pool.
It's the Palend.
Palantir is from Lord of the Rings. It's
I
like
don't
the
know.
stone. Because he looks into like a little thing of water and he is able to see where she's at. It's the thing Jafar uses to find the diamond in the rough.
He's got a mythical orb.
Yeah,
you know?
both stories are from the same book, so I'm sure that the idea of a little puddle of water and you put hair in it. Whatever. So the false king is like planning to execute the real king and secures hold on the kingdom. Whatever kingdom this is. Never established.
Yeah, it's really not.
Meanwhile, Sinbad starts sailing, and he offers Serena some clothes from under the deck. And she's like, "I would have liked clean clothes." And he's like, "There's a bucket over there." And she's dressed in a turban and like a crop top and some baggy pants. I'm like, cool. She looks like Jasmine.
Pirate skin.
Clearly, she's meant to look like Jasmine from Aladdin.
Yep.
And so they start sailing, and the music starts swelling at this point. And he's like, "Go check out down there. You can help the crew." And like, I was like, "Oh my god, is a song about to happen?" I was watching this with Becca, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this cannot turn into a musical right now, or I will scream." And thank God for us, it didn't turn into a musical. But like the music starts like dun 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 dun, and I'm like, no. And then they just have a whole sequence where she's like trying to learn how to like pull the fucking.
Yeah, it's a whole montage of her like screwing up and hurting the crew.
And crew's like being flung off the ship.
Yeah, she throws one man overboard, zooms another one up into the ropes.
and he goes, and we just
And they're
never
all
see
like,
him again.
"Princess, perhaps you could help over there." And then she waddles over there and destroys something else. It's so good.
It's great.
It's so good. Also, I noted, all of the ropes on the ship are super wiggly and weird. Like if you see them, none of them are standing straight. They're like wiggling like their tentacles.
There's this
So weird.
around this point, someone gets like cut on the arm, and if you watch their like wound, it's rotoscoped frame by frame. So the guy like moves, and the fucking thing will like stay in the midair for a second, and then reattach to his arm. It was not added on the texture. They just like frame by frame had to like attach it to put it over his arm.
I mean, this movie was like, on a short list for the Oscars.
Academy
Yeah.
Awards.
So.
Clearly everyone's favorite, Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mists. They make it to the Veil of Mist shockingly quickly.
They do.
There's a kraken and there's also
right
a
before-
bat monster fight.
Right before they reach it, Baraka like uses his magic and summon. He's like in there and he's like, ah, and like a little octopus appears in the room with him and like crawls into the vision.
Well, like what he does is he whips the crew to like start turning this wheel.
Yeah.
He says, "Let no man look up at the sky with hope
And Davy Jones
till
appear.
they see the Kraken." Doom.
That essentially does kind of happen.
Yeah,
Like,
the Kraken's great. The Kraken
like-
is my favorite. This whole fight was my favorite part
he
of the
like
movie.
scoops an octopus into his like little orb, and the octopus like turns into a kraken and
Yeah.
attacks the ship. Meanwhile, there's a bat creature that
the lightning bat. Yeah.
the lightning bat that swoops down from a lightning storm and starts attacking the ship, and it's like it looks like an animation from my fucking Jimmy Neutron Attack of the Twonkies video game.
It's so scary. Okay, so the Kraken's arms
Yeah.
are like the most disgusting,
Yeah.
wiggly, like spiked. They're like really, really gross
Unsettling.
looking. There's so much more detail on these Kraken arms than anything else. There's
Yeah.
like little sores on them and stuff.
It's
It was really spooky.
I don't like it one fucking bit. The Kraken's like it's like scooping the crew up, and they're like, ah!
Oh yeah. Yashin, one of the crew, dies in this fight.
He does.
And it's just never brought up again. He
Nobody
gets like
cares.
scooped out, and his buddy goes, "Yashin, no!" And then another like tentacle comes up, and he smashes the tentacle. He's like, "It's for Yashin!"
Yes.
And then they never talk about Yashin ever
Yeah,
again.
they're like, yeah, that guy's fucking dead.
He's just gone.
We gotta talk about Mook really quick. They have a really,
Mook.
they have like a little person crew member
Yeah.
named Mook. He's the cook.
He's the best.
And he like she complains a bunch about his cooking, and he just fucking throws it overboard.
He chucks his like the whole plate off the ship.
I'm like, there's limited stores here, buddy. And he grabs his butcher knife. He's like, ah! And he starts attacking this one tentacle. And that's another one.
Yashin.
That's another one where you can clearly see the blood is rotoscoped. It's like kind of struggling to like move.
It's so good.
And he's like, ah! And he's just going at the tentacle. And then someone's like, "Princess, steer the ship. I got it." And he jumps with his sword and starts attacking the tentacles.
He does a really cool like tactical roll.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden a crossbow appears in his hands.
Yeah.
He just switched the inventory in his backpack.
That's it. Literally is what it looked like.
Well, his tactical role has the energy of a video game animation.
Yeah.
Where like he's mocap and then he just has an animation and then he's back to mocap.
The tactical roll is the best looking animation in
Yes.
the movie.
It's anytime there's like a fight scene, I'm like, oh, the mocap kind of works for this because it doesn't like like the mocap at least looks like they're doing something. Like it doesn't look good, but at least it's doing something. Oh my god, I just looked at my notes and I remembered something that happens later in the movie.
Yeah.
But they do defeat both creatures because the bat absorbs lightning, and so Sinbad shoots it with a metal harpoon, and then a metallic chain he attaches to the
Tentacle.
and then when the creature gets struck by lightning, it goes through the chain to the Kraken, and so the Kraken retreats underwater and pulls the bat creature underwater with it.
Jeff, I totally forgot something.
Yeah.
We haven't ranked the hair.
Oh no.
Cue the hair ranking music. Welcome to
Stuart, you seem distressed.
the hair. I need more wine.
I am unfortunately out.
I see you have tequila bottles.
Stuart want a shot of tequila for this hair ranking.
Well, maybe.
Stuart, here, I'm bringing up a picture of the hair so you can see.
No, I don't need to see it. You put it at the bottom. I don't need to see it. I don't need to see the list. I don't.
looks
I don't even need to see it.
That's what he looks like.
You put it at the bottom right now. What is that? Black.
That shit don't look right.
I am about to penetrate your mind. You will attempt to resist. That's the vibe I get from Baraka.
You want me to just put this dead at the bottom?
Dead at the bottom. 0 out of 0 out of 0 out of 0. Just the worst fucking pile of fecal matter pasted on top of a
He's
human scalp that I have seen in my goddamn miserable life. I never want to see it again. And if I do, I will kill myself.
Stuart, they only had 3 polygons to work with.
Yeah, they only had a few options here.
If I was designing my character on RuneScape, I would shit on that hair
Oh my god,
option.
this looks like a fucking RuneScape. You're correct.
Yeah.
Here's what Sinbad looks like in the other movie.
See, that's fine. See, that's
The
fine.
other Sinbad is so good.
Why did
Ryan
guys? Why
distress.
couldn't we just watch that movie and pretended it was this movie?
I was so sad when this movie started and it wasn't that. Oh.
You're like, oh no, I picked the wrong Sinbad.
I made a terrible mistake. So they kill the Kraken and the Bat Monster,
Oh, yeah.
They do. They
kill the
succeed.
things.
They defeat them both,
And then they get to the
the Veil
Veil.
of Mists.
and it's
And they're like, we don't know what could happen when we go through. Everyone batten down. And then you know what happens when they go through the Veil of Mists? Nothing.
they-
They just go through.
It's super easy.
There's no like.
they go down a waterfall.
They don't get
right?
attacked by a creature. Nothing happens. The waterfall shortly thereafter.
Oh yeah,
But the actual Veil of Mist is fine.
Yeah, it's nothing. Easy
Nothing
peasy.
happens. It's very funny. So they make it through the titular Veil of Mists, and then they discover a large waterfall. They're like, we have to stop the ship! And they cannot succeed at stopping the ship because the current is too strong. They send all the crew out on a rowboat, and they attach the rope from the rowboat to the ship. They're like, we'll
they're
use the
trying to-
little dinghy.
Trying to do the tugboat.
oh my
And Mook
God.
is out there like, I'm not a rower, I'm a cook.
Yeah.
Damn it, Jim! I'm a cook, not a rower.
And so
My arms.
they're desperately trying to escape. And then this one guy, Mustafa,
Mustafa, the big guy.
Mustafa the big guy's like, I'll save you guys. And he's like, Sinbad, Serena, get off the ship. And they're like, no, we won't leave you. And then he jumps off the ship and he runs down these little rocks as the ship's about to go over the waterfall. He's like, "Arr!" He's like pushing the ship up. And Sinbad's like, oh, he's going to sacrifice himself. So our ship falls down the waterfall upright.
Perfectly upright.
Yeah. And it's
He's trying to lift us up over the rocks so we don't
Yeah.
turn over as we
Yeah.
go over. And she goes, no, but he'll be crushed. And she goes, I know. He knows that. And then we never see him again.
Yeah, Mustafa is supposedly crushed. When they fall off the waterfall, did you guys pick up it was stock footage?
Oh, of the water?
It's a stock footage of a waterfall, and they just like superimpose this wooden glob going. right
It's so funny.
It's Becca and I were wheezing with laughter when that happened. It's just like.
I think I was falling asleep at this point
But
in the movie.
it is good that Mustafa got his redemption arc.
Yeah.
Because he was really creepy
being
in the
a dick at
bar
the beginning.
with the princess.
Well, they got in a fight with Sinbad too.
Yeah, he was picking up the princess, like implying he was gonna go like
do
I don't know,
things.
do things. And I was like, this is a bad guy. But you know, he redeemed himself because he got himself crushed.
Yeah.
If anyone says movie does not have character development, you can fuck right off.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's so bad.
I am.
the ship-
Guys, I am struggling.
The ship crashes, and Sinbad and Serena wash up on the shore. And they're like, Mustafa's dead, and they're like, at least the rest of the crew's alive.
Oh, they don't talk about Mustafa at all. Sinbad
Oh, yeah,
looks
they
back
don't.
and is like, that ship was my home.
Yeah, he's like, fuck my guy who died saving my life. He's like, that ship was everything to me. At the top of the waterfall, Mook and all of them have escaped. We don't see them again until the very end.
Yeah. Sinbad like cut them off and was like, they should go to safety. And they don't even notice. They just keep rowing
Yeah.
away. It's so-
The end of this movie has tremendous Pirates of the Caribbean vibes where it's like, he's like, da-da-da-da-da-da, as like Mook and all those little guys come over on the da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's like a 4-day sail away to the edge of the world.
Yeah.
They just rode back.
And and Mook's like, where do you want to go? And he's like, wherever the horizon takes me.
And that's the movie.
They
Thank
do
you
row
all.
back from the building at shocking speed. It's like, all right, boys.
They just lift Mook up, and he's like, "No, guys, stop it!" And he
Throw
starts
off the
kicking
dead
his
weight.
leg, and then he like they lower him into the water,
Turn him
and
into
his kicking
propeller.
legs. We are not lying. This actually happens.
Yes. And so Sinbad and Serena, they swim, or they walk.
they walk.
They walk. They're on like some shore. At some point, they fall into the water and they're among a bunch of fish.
Well, because they see the shape
Yes.
that's on the page.
Yes. And they go
Yes.
into
It's a like Last Jedi moment
Yeah.
where they hold up the knife and it perfectly
Rise
fits.
of Skywalker.
Oh, excuse me.
Do not besmirch. The Rise of Skywalker is the one where. Okay, I want to talk about that real quick.
Okay, yeah.
I want to think about this.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
So. Okay.
No.
So Ray walks up and she's like, she holds the knife out to the horizon and it perfectly points to the Emperor's throne room.
Yes, the ancient Sith knife.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's a step. So Ochi of Bestoon, beloved character, who only appears in flashbacks in that movie, but has a lot of plot relevance. She holds the knife up, and I'm like, okay, so we've missed some points. We've missed some elements here. For this to work, Ochi had to stand at this exact spot on this hill, stand there with the knife like this, and then draw in the outline.
Yeah.
And then he had to
File
sit there
bits out of
and
the
whittle
knife.
the knife
Yes,
down.
Yes.
It's like, all right, yeah, this works at this exact spot. And then he had to hope that whoever had the knife next stood at this spot for this thing to line up.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work anywhere else. It's only going to work right there. And he like writes on the knife in like Sith runes. He's like, Delta 0-9-4, 5th planet in the Endor system, only this blade tells, or something like that. And I'm like, bro, would it not have been easier to just write Emperor's throne room, left door?
Yeah.
like because he could have just written that on the knife instead of him and so Ray, by sheer fucking coincidence seemingly, happens to stand at the exact spot where he shaped this knife and it's like, oh yeah, it's in that throne room, isn't it?
Yeah, so this movie has that exact same moment where they shipwreck on the beach and they look up and it's like carved into the side of the mountain. There's the exact same symbol that's on her ripped page
they go in
from
the mountain,
wizard book.
And they are assailed immediately by a massive spider.
Okay. The spider's really scary.
The spider's a little freaky.
This is a like rated G movie for kids. That spider 100% would have given me nightmares.
Brian, do you remember when we watched the Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure together?
I do. It was a great time.
This has tremendous energy of at the end when Chukotrak is fighting the big like monster, the Gorax.
Yes, sir.
This is tremendous energy of that because it just like emerges.
Yeah.
And Sinbad's trying to figure out how to fight it. And she holds a piece of wood down and he slashes his blade down.
Sinbad hears, so Serena throws a rock and it hits the spider. And Sinbad goes, oh, it sounds like it's made of wood.
The spider?
The spider, yes.
Is made of wood?
Yes, and then Sinbad goes, let's destroy this big lump of driftwood. And so he cuts off one of the spider's legs, right, which is leaking juices and stuff, but supposedly is made of wood. And Serena grabs that.
He slashes his sword down and creates a spark, and it lights the thing on fire. And she's like, back! And the spark. It's like Shelob in Lord of the Rings when they hold a little vial of Elendil.
What's very interesting is when the spider dies, the control room opens in the head, and you see a small little alien controlling on the verge of death, and he says, "On Orion's belt," and then dies.
So that doesn't happen, but something oddly similar.
Men in Black 2, way better movie than this.
Movie.
And
so they burn the wooden spider.
Yeah, they burn the wooden spider and then they light the web on fire.
Yes.
And the web just like, because they're standing on web.
Yeah.
They don't get stuck on it, but they're standing on web.
You know, the ground opens. The next zone has been unlocked.
Yes, exactly.
They beat the boss.
We can't escape. What do we do? He's like, jump. And so they jump off down the hall. They land in the water.
Yes.
There's a bunch of little fishies there. And then suddenly this big manta ray goes and comes towards them and opens mouth.
And it's so funny. The mouth is so derpy.
Yes.
It's
like
so goofy looking.
And it sucks them up with all the fish.
Yeah.
And then it turns out it's not a manta ray. It's a fucking metallic ship.
It's a sub the whole time.
Whoa. And at this point I'm like, wait a second. Where's this movie going?
Yeah. Because it's like futuristic looking. There's like little claws.
It looks like
that
Atlantis,
sort
the Lost Empire.
That's exactly what it looks like.
It looks like the fish creatures from Atlantis, the Lost Empire.
Yeah. I got pretty hype at this
Yeah,
point.
I was like, oh
where
shit, are they going to
going?
Atlantis? Atlantis the Lost Time, a movie that opens with a guy being like, "You idiot, you've doomed us all," and then not explaining how one of those guys started the cataclysmic event. Never get into that. Besides the point. But so they're in this this manta ray ship. Stuart looks upset right now. He looks distressed.
Stuart, this is the best part of the movie. There's a manta ray ship.
I want us to be done.
It's future technology.
I'm having. Did we all finish our wines?
Yeah.
Oh man, I am distraught.
And so the ship is like,
End this pain.
yeah. And so like the ship, like inside, the water starts draining, and there's like these clamp things that
Yeah.
are separating the fish,
Yeah.
and then it sails into a larger undersea structure. And it releases the fish into little tubes.
Yeah, they
And then-
they collect the catch, as
Yes.
Sinbad said. They're collecting the catch of the day.
And Sinbad and Stuart run out, and they see like multiple different paths, and they see down the main one 3 like kind of hulking creature or like spinally creatures walking
Oh
towards
yeah,
them.
I was like, I wrote down aliens.
I
and,
do
like,
too. I was
circled
like,
it a bunch
oh
of
my
times.
god, is this a bunch of fucking aliens?
Because the little like bridge they're walking over has all these like holes in it. Like nothing
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And then they're like, we're gonna run from these creatures, and so they go down like another path with a bunch of holes in it, which the creatures could have 100% seen them, but they don't somehow. And so they run across it, and they go through like a little hole in the wall, and they come across like a jellyfish farm or a mushroom farm.
Yeah,
They're mushrooms that look like jellyfish.
It looks like jellyfish, but they call them mushrooms a
Yes.
number of times.
Yes. And so they do the Dory thing, and they bounce across the mushrooms.
Sinbad says, this couldn't get any weirder.
Yeah. Because they have to get to the center where supposedly the cure will be found for the curse that Baraka has placed on the king. And
Are we done yet?
they fall, and they come across a bunch of fish people.
Yes.
They're like... And so the fish people like kind of gather them up, and they bring them...
And Sinbad goes, I guess I was wrong. It has gotten weirder.
And the at this point, this kind of has tremendous Way of Water vibes. I was like, not only is it the first mocap, but this is kind of like Avatar: The Way of Water.
James Cameron watched this movie and was just
Yeah, when they find like
jerking off to it. I don't know.
they're like the waters, the Way of Water connects all things from life to death, from darkness to light.
So I just want to say, because I wrote this note in big print and underlined it a bunch of times. The fish boy voice
Yeah.
is amazing
my
and
God.
sounds exactly like that SpongeBob episode where he needs water and Sandy's
Yeah.
gone. He's like, welcome,
Sandy, I need
No.
come here.
The first line is they meet like the top fish guy and his little beard.
top fish guy.
The top fish
Yeah.
man.
And he's got a beard.
And he's like, why have you He sounds really distressed.
It's really
I'm like, bro, get in some water right now.
And he's like, my dad was cursed by this guy named Baraka. Baraka, I know him.
He's my brother.
You're like, wait a second. He's a fish guy?
I love how he knows him immediately. It's like, my dad was cursed. My brother.
Who, evidently, Baraka had to have cursed whoever the mummified dude was
Yeah.
when he was a fish guy. So where's the other guy that is now in Baraka's fish body, but not Baraka?
Yes.
Where is he? Who is he?
So, like,
There were only 6 people in the castle, so you know.
so clearly Baraka has has used magic to turn his fish body to look like a human body. And then has taken his personality and put it into the king, and the king's personality into his human body that's been transmorphed from the fish body.
Yes.
That's how this works, clearly. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows this. Many people are saying it's tremendous. Everyone knows this. The fish bodies, the fish bodies are moving into the real body.
Yeah.
So yeah, they meet this guy.
My brother. I can give you the cure. Time is short.
He like just gives them a vial. He's like,
This will fix the problem.
Yeah, he shows him the shipwreck museum
Yeah.
of how he learned about humanity.
How I learned English.
even though they're in like Baghdad, so English wouldn't be the language. Whatever.
It's very funny.
They find like a painting of the king and his wife, and she's like, "So this is how you learn about my family."
Yeah.
And he's like,
Your time is running out. Go.
and like they clearly have like ships, but instead he's just like he points at a mushroom that's
starting
already
to
taking
float
off.
Yeah.
And Sinbad's starting. This music starts going. It sounds like Kingdom Hearts music, like from the action scenes.
This is Halo 3 final mission. We have to take the warthog off of the exploding planet.
It's
Yeah.
a vehicle mission.
And
Yeah.
a Orbiter's just like shooting all the flood on the back.
Oh my god.
And you're like, so they make it to the mushroom and they clasp on, and they like hang on to the bottom of this mushroom for a substantial amount of time.
Yeah, they grabbed the tentacles, which I assumed would have been a bad call because I thought they were jellyfish.
Yeah.
But it was fine. They're actually mushrooms.
And then we get like a montage of the mushroom just like flying across the sky, and I'm like, they're holding on for a long time.
There's an ET moment where it like crosses
goes
the
to
moon.
With them like dangling on the bottom.
For 7 days.
I mean, exactly as long as it took the rest of the crew to row back.
Yeah,
So-
imagine holding onto the bottom of a mushroom for that long.
My hands are getting numb,
Yeah.
Sinbad.
Like eventually you would have fallen asleep and let go and fall into your death.
Yeah.
But we cut back to the kingdom
They
where
couldn't have climbed on top of the cap.
the executions of the king in Baraka's body and Calico Jack are scheduled.
Yeah, because they're gonna kill Calico Jack too.
Yeah, for some reason. And so the king's like, do not kill this man. He's innocent. And Baraka's like, fine, you will watch him die.
This is your first.
Yeah. And so the execution method here is you're put on a metal platform, and then they just release the platform when you fall.
Yeah.
Nothing elegant about this. They just drop you on some rocks and then you fall in the ocean.
I thought it was very funny that the reason the execution has been postponed up till this point is because the little dropping mechanism hasn't been used in a while. and
Yeah.
so they
Oh,
had to fix it.
They do establish that there's
So
some
funny.
technical problems with the dropping. Like you could just thrown the
You
guys
could
off
just
the
throw
cliff.
them off. I mean, yeah.
Like, I don't know if you need
Being
all
so
this
fucking elegant about it.
engineering for the fucking machine.
It's like just a little thing.
Oh my god, that's so funny. But right before the execution's about to happen, the mushroom just appears and flies, and Sinbad's starting to jump off. And they jump off this mushroom, like, ah! And Sinbad's like sword fighting
And
with the dudes.
Best fight scene ensues.
And then Serena like gets the thing and she slashes it onto the false king.
Yeah, the potion that
Yeah.
the fish boy gave her.
And the king's like, ah! And the body in previously they just swapped souls, but now the bodies transform.
Yeah, he becomes the
Baraka?
old Baraka.
Yeah.
So there's two of them for a moment.
Yeah.
And then he becomes the fish guy.
Yeah, and he turns into the fish guy, and Baraka turns into the real king.
Yeah.
And then he becomes the fish guy and immediately falls.
Oh, yeah, he just falls off the edge.
Yeah, he's like, ah! And it's funny because the animation for him falling is like just still. He's like,
T-pose straight
He
down.
T-poses straight
It's
down.
So good.
But like he's a fish guy, so won't he survive?
Well, he falls on the rocks first.
Yeah,
it's
it
Nemo going.
implied that he's slammed into the rocks.
Yeah, we never see it. Nemo's like, "Arr!" Yeah, and that's the end of Baraka.
Yeah.
And they're all together, and the king's like, "Oh, my daughter, Sinbad, you've saved the day!" And everyone applauds.
Mark Hamill gets his one line that's like, "Oh, my king, please forgive me." And the king goes, "Next time, use your ears alongside your eyes."
Yes.
As like that's the moral.
The
That's the
lesson of the
lesson is
movie.
like, when people switch bodies, their voices may not change. So pay attention.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm filing that away in the back of the brain.
And you think that he just let the guard off scot-free, but what we don't see and later in the movie is the guard actually gets executed, but not before seeing his entire family murdered. Because the king is not but vengeful.
Oh, my goodness.
No, but what they really see is the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Oh
Coming
my God.
over the horizon.
There's like
on a
literally-
little rowboat.
You know that character from Game of Thrones, Gendry, how like he in season 3 he like rode off one night.
Yeah.
And then we just didn't see him again until season 7.
Yeah.
They're like that guy.
Oh.
Thought you'd still be rowing.
Yeah.
And then they smash cut to the new ship. They like rebuilt Sinbad's ship. Now
Yeah.
it's called the Treasure Keeper instead of the Treasure Seeker.
Because he got his
he got
treasure
his
and it was
treasure.
his
It's-
wife.
It's her.
And they go on many adventures together.
Yeah, and then the movie
Calico
just ends.
Jack tells us
It's
this.
so the ending of this movie is so abrupt. It's like
Yeah.
they succeed with the king situation, and then boom, the next shot is of the new pirate ship in a wide, and then boom, credits, done. That's it.
It's crazy. This movie, insane. I do believe this might be the worst movie we've ever covered on the show.
Yeah.
It might be the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's in contention for that. It's definitely the worst we've covered on this show. I would say that pretty firmly.
Lower than White Man's Burden.
White Man's Burden at least had a good performance from Harry Belafonte.
Lower than... I don't know. We've covered some really bad movies.
Yeah.
But worse than Battlefield Earth.
Yes. So much worse than Battlefield Earth.
Worse than...
Battlefield Earth had
I was destroyed by the cyclones. Take my knowledge.
I'm going to force feed it into your
Yeah.
eyes, into your brain.
Okay, so this movie comes out. It gets theatrically released.
Can you imagine seeing this on a theater on
I
the
would have
big
walked
screen?
out. I would have walked out.
Okay, so that's really when Jeff mentioned that they showed Brendan Fraser's name twice in the front. I think it was to keep people from walking out of the theater. You know, like the filmmakers are like, no, really, Brendan Fraser's in this.
Middle of the movie, just cut to Brendan Fraser credit to remind them that that's the voice they're listening to.
Oh man.
So this movie has
Budget of $30 million.
budget of $30 million. It makes 29,000. Those are losses of 98 million dollars on this movie.
Wow.
29,000.
That's
That's
a loss of almost 100%, right?
Yeah, almost 100%.
That's like mathematically, you might as well have just burned $30,000.
I am I'm reading reviews of this movie. This movie has 3 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. All of them are negative. Seemingly no one has seen this movie, understandably so. It made $29,000. Clearly no one saw it. There's one review on Letterboxd that said the bit in the middle where they just gave up animating their mouths is my favorite part.
It's so good. I'm telling you.
Oh my god.
Oh, there is one scene in the prison where Calico Jack is talking to the fake or the real king in the Baraka's body
costume.
Yeah. And they fully animate They move Jack's mouth through the animation.
Wow.
And it's so like it just comes out of nowhere and I'm like, hey, they decided to animate the mouth for this scene and then never again.
You're like, hell yeah.
I just made note of it. I was like, that's so funny that they would
For this one scene.
This scene they gave the animators like a couple extra days or
Give them
whatever.
a few dollars.
Oh,
I think this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life because just like talking about this movie has brought me a lot of pain
This
and
movie
anguish.
has fun fish people, though. So it is worthy of acknowledging the theatrical release of this movie was only in Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago.
it
So-
was released here.
Yeah, we
If
could
we
have
were
seen this
here
man.
in the year
2000.
2000, we could have watched this movie
in
somewhere.
theaters for Academy eligibility in New York and LA.
What was the studio that made it?
Something
Pentafor Software.
Re-release it.
It was released by Phaedra Cinema.
Re-release it. Bring it back to theaters.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Maybe we can do what they did to Morbius with this, where Morbius was a flop, and then people online were like, "Bring it back, bring it back," and they re-released it in 1,000 theaters, and it flopped again, and no one saw it.
I think we can make that happen, Jeff.
And there was a change.org that was like, no, we were all sleeping that time. Bring Morbius back again.
A third time.
See how many times they can bring Morbius, trick Sony into re-releasing Morbius and losing more millions.
That's the best.
Well, I wonder if it's possible to procure a Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mists 35mm roll. Because that would have been in film projection.
Yeah.
He's looking it up.
Of Mists 35mm. Stuart, if I can procure a projection quality format of this, what if we hosted a screening of this movie?
I'm getting drunk and high off my ass. I'll get more drunk than I will get at your wedding.
Oh my goodness.
I will be vomiting in the seats. I will be shitting myself.
Shitting yourself.
I will be shitting and vomiting at the same time.
I'm gonna put the APB out on this. See if we can find something.
Yeah, if we can get a 35 print.
Well, even if you can get like a Blu-ray, you can connect that in theaters and still screen it.
I mean, hey, you can buy the VHS on Amazon.
I'm looking for DVDs. I found a DVD. I can get it for $7.99.
Buy it.
I'm gonna give it some. I'm gonna think about it before I do this. There's more than one quality. All the reviews are like, I use this for research purposes. I did not enjoy this movie for its ability as the first mocap movie.
Me too.
I think that's all I can say about this movie. It's a flop. It doesn't do anything for Fraser.
Can we just say?
We can talk.
Can we? So how did we like the motion capture? You know,
It's terrible.
I mean, there's a lot of times where Sinbad runs around and his hands are like bent behind his back, like he's a little like
Naruto
chicken.
running.
You know, yeah.
He's like, they did like really heighten. It seems like the actors did not do the mocap for this.
Okay, so here's what I was thinking, because I am interested to hear that it actually was mocap, because while I was watching it I was like, maybe,
Yeah,
because like this I mean, like you said, it was the first movie. I was like, this was pretty early for motion capture.
Yeah.
I would be very interested to know how much of that motion capture data was actually used.
Yeah,
Because I mean, they don't move very much, like for the running, like maybe,
yeah.
but like it's so clearly like these animators must have been so rushed, had no time, no money.
Oh, 100%.
You know, I am almost like, did they just like take the motion capture and be like, yeah, we'll use like which direction their head is turning, and then we'll just make them, you know, do the rest, because it's so. Ooh,
We'll do a thing.
I don't believe it's really, really bad.
It's terrible. This movie looks like there's no more to say about it.
Yeah.
It's an atrocity.
I'm gonna close my notes book because I have nothing else in there.
Needs to be burned. Burn it. Sorry.
Brian, do you have any final thoughts on this movie? I can't think of anything else to say.
It makes a lot of sense to hear that it was made by a software company.
Yes.
And written by a software engineer.
Yes.
I think honestly the quality of the voice work was surprisingly okay. I think the voices sounded fine.
Yeah, they were fine.
It was fine.
It was mostly like...
It was fine. It was so ugly that I'm like, everything else was like, it was fine.
They hired a bunch of professional voice actors, and for the most part, they worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. Where did the 30 million go?
Yeah, I want to
like,
know.
Really, where did the money go?
It probably all
Where did the
went
money
into
go?
figuring out the technology, and then once they
I
didn't quite figure it out,
Like,
and they
yeah,
just
that's
went
what I'd
for
say.
it.
I was like, is it all R&D? And then on the day, they're like, we'll
Shoot, guys, we didn't figure it out.
damn it, you know?
How much money we got left? 30,000. All right.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's make this movie. Fraser's popping off.
The worst thing I've seen in my life.
Yeah,
And I've seen some pretty offensive movies. I've seen all 3 Human Centipede movies.
Yeah. Oh, rough.
This is worse.
Yeah.
yeah.
The fish guys were the good part in the movie.
I was so excited anytime the fish people were talking. Even Baraka I thought was pretty funny with I am seafood. That I laughed out loud in a couple of parts where it was just so bizarre.
I am the sea. Let an old man look up at the sky with hope.
Very funny. All right.
100 souls. 3 days. 3 days.
Sure, I just got a text I got to show you after we cut.
All right. Let's close out, Jeff.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode on Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mist. Brian, thank you so much for joining us and
Thank you, Brian.
walking through this with us.
I'm so glad that I did, boys.
Yeah.
Brian, one day we'll get you in for a good movie. We have covered Killing Season, Gotti, and Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mist.
Yeah, I've come out for some real bangers.
Coming out struggling. This is not the last animated movie we're going to cover on with Fraser. It's worthy of note, but they do not get better than this.
Really?
We will have to cover Escape from Planet Earth and The Nut Job.
Oh, The Nut Job.
I feel like
That's a great movie.
I feel like no animation, every single animation I see from now on is going to be like groundbreaking for me because I'll have like a bottom level
of Sinbad.
Sinbad. It's like, oh, this looks terrible. Meanwhile, I'm like, that's actually pretty good.
Like I've never animated anything in my life. I'm pretty sure I could make something
Better
that
than
looks
this.
like Veil of Mist today. Like if I just pull up, something.
Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could
Paint.
do this.
Incredible. All right, well, thank you again, Brian, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. As a reminder, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Pop to our Reddit, r/Travolting. Find us on Twitter at TravoltingPod. Email us, TravoltingPodcast@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney.
You can find me on Instagram, Stuart95. And you can find my Instagram on Delicioso8. Thanks. Thank you as always to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design. It's Gardner for our social media. And my own Smith for our theme music. Have a great week. See you next week for Bedazzled with William Angelico.
Yeah, I'll see you next week for Bedazzled. Bye.